Mr. Heeman, do you have any other testimony?
That's it for our testimony, Mr. Chairman. Like you said, you have Paul Dannon here if you have questions about traffic. And we do have our engineer here doubling as our IT professional. So if you have any questions for him.
Yeah, I just have some basic questions, and I know this has been through the planning board and the TRC, but just for the public as they're zooming in, hopefully they're able to hear us. So just to reiterate, there is no proposed change in traffic patterns, no change in the entrance, no
Correct.
change in the parking capacity, no event space.
Correct.
There'll be restrooms, I assume, available. The only addition is the temporary building to deal with the business transactions about registering the golf and all of that, and I guess a storage area for the golf carts.
Correct.
So no additional lighting, nothing of that nature. Hours of operation will kind of mimic.
Yeah. As far as the lighting, there's no change in lighting. It's
Right.
just
Just in the
gonna be
parking lot.
utilization of the site lighting that
Right.
kind of been there.
And in terms of like hours of operation, kind of mimicking what was there before, people usually start golfing at what, 7 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah, normally it will be at 7 in the morning till 6 at night, will be the in-season tea times.
Okay, great. So before I ask the commission members to ask any questions, I know that the design review committee met last week on it. I don't know if you want to give an overview, Steve, of what you discussed, if there's anything else you want to add to the presentation.
No, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, what we went through last week. We had the same presentation. We went through and discussed all these topics that we discussed today. The 20 by 20 building is a temporary structure, only there for the use of this space. And once the rest of the development moves forward into the next phase, all this will be taken away. We did discuss 1A, which is the future maintenance building, and discuss some of the comments that the public had regarding that. And the applicant had acknowledged those comments and said they were working on those. So any recommendation we make here tonight is on phase 1 only, with phase 1A being excluded from anything we discuss. We did talk a little bit about future discussions regarding some walking paths, and the applicant will sit with, or has agreed to sit with the public to discuss the potential. There was a lot of discussion on whether it's appropriate on a golf course, and that will be discussed in a little further detail.
And then the design review committee gave a favorable opinion to this Waterfront Commission to approve that.
So we did, yeah.
Great. And
It was
Keith,
unanimous.
and Keith, the planning board met Monday night
Yeah,
to
planning
provide an opinion on this as well.
Yeah, planning board met Monday night, and their role in this is to advise the DRC and the Waterfront Commission about the application consistency with the comprehensive plan. So that was their motion. They voted that phase 1 only here is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the purposes of the subdivision and land development regulation. So same result as the DRC.
So positive
Right.
recommendation. Okay, great. Any questions from the commission members on what we've heard tonight, or the DRC, the planning board? Any comments on this? Okay, no, thank you. Well, guess we'll open it up for a public hearing if people want to come and to the podium and introduce themselves and make a statement or ask a question. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Marshall family, everyone here. I am Candy Seal. I'm speaking on behalf of Keith Comet Green this evening. KMG has no objection to the layout of links as presented by Marshall Properties, the public hearing of the Design Review Committee, and also here tonight. This evening, it is a beautiful course. Marshall and Mr. McNeil should be justifiably proud of how it's come out. We respectfully request that the commission accept the DRC's recommendation to approve the applicant's plan, including the proviso that a public discussion on walking paths within the course be conducted before the end of the year. Josh Berlinski indicated at the DRC hearing that Marshall would be happy to engage in such a dialogue. Although Mr. Berlinski again indicated at the planning board meeting that Marshall would be willing to participate in a public discussion, the members excluded that provision from its recommendation. Members of the board indicated that they were persuaded by architect Robert McNeil's argument that the course is too tightly constructed to accommodate pedestrian walkways, as well as Mr. Pisano's concern about liability. KMG recognizes the legitimacy of those concerns, of those issues, and certainly respects Mr. McNeil's vast experience in the golf course industry and Mr. Pisano's views as well. We share their concern for the public safety and would not suggest anything that would jeopardize it. In fact, we have a specific idea for a walking path at a location that would greatly reduce the chance of injury while also providing public access to inland water. A later speaker will comment on the general details of our plan. The right of public access to the waterfront is embedded within the comprehensive plan and the Waterfront District's 2003 plan. To restrict that access primarily to members of the public who will pay $25, $30 or more for the privilege is to deny that right to the majority of the public. We have what we think is a workable plan. We ask that the commission follow the lead of the DRC in recommending the discussion of walking paths by year's end. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Want to come up and introduce yourself? Good evening.
Guess I don't need a mic.
No, we're in a small room. Hopefully people can hear us. Yeah.
I want to confess to a crime that was committed on 4th Street by a bunch of kids, 9 years old, 8 years old. We used to caddy.
I'm sorry, can you just say your name for the record? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Richard Ferrer.
Okay, thank you.
I was born and brought up in the city. Anyway, that was 75 years ago. The statute of limitations is expired. So I can confess. And it was a beautiful course then, and it still is. I have to take the advice of, I guess, King Solomon. You can't always get the full baby. You may have to take the half. And that's not acceptable. So I would recommend that this commission has done a great job, by the way, for East Providence, to approve this petition. However, just a suggestion, and I think the owners have done a good job and brought in as much as they could. Walking paths, I'd be afraid to hit a ball with anybody walking anywhere near the fairway. It's bad enough if you have spectators in a tournament, but they give pretty much that right. They can hit with the ball. It's not the liability of the course. It shouldn't be. So I don't think, in all due respect to the great group of people here, that walking paths should be an issue. Secondly, I think with the consultant being here on golf, that there might be more tees put in for par 3. An awful lot of, my wife and I play, she's in the league. I'm 86 and so is she. And you'd be amazed at how many women's leagues, older guys leagues, and just people like me used to play 18 holes. Never improved, but enjoy the game. So that's just a suggestion.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, if you want to respond to that regarding the par 3s, I guess.
Robert McNeil. Yeah, pleasure to meet you. I've been designing golf courses, Dick, for almost 35 years, and there's been a huge push in the last 10 years for forward tees. Every golf course that we've worked on, probably ever, but more so in the last 10 to 15 years, has been driven by a forward tee program. I am a massive proponent of forward tees, whether it's par 3 tees or shorter golf course, to grow the game. I am a grow the game freak. I can tell you that right now. All I want to do is get everybody on a golf course where possible. In fact, we're very active in the 9-hole awards right now. We want that product to be the lead product in the industry right now to get people to play golf. Met Links is a little shorter than it ever was. I mean, Metacomet was a long golf, but this is a bit shorter. And every hole does have multiple tees. Not to say that they're par threes, but they're much shorter. There's a lot of shorter opportunities to play golf here at Met Links than there ever was before. So keep that in mind, and I hope you come out to enjoy what we've created.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Comment or question on that or any other topic? Come on, Dan, up. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. My name is Dan Bodwin. I live at 48 Kettle Point in East Providence. Thank you for this opportunity. There's just one question. I was in front of DRC last week, and there was one traffic response that I thought was going to go up on the web. It was Crossman's response to RIDOT. I was told that was going to go up on the web. I haven't seen that yet, so I just hope that's going
Is that the
on.
one we discussed?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we just,
Paul's reviewing it.
What's that?
I think we just got it. I think Ray said he just got it
Okay.
yesterday.
Is that the
so-
one, Paul, is that the one you're reviewing right now? Yeah.
No.
I haven't seen it, Dan, so
All right.
I can't really answer that,
We'll
so.
send it back.
Okay.
Okay,
I haven't seen it, so I can't.
it's brand new, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was in front of DRC. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, great hearing. And I discussed two things, and I'll just briefly go over them tonight. One is the walking path. Before I say that, I must congratulate the whole team here. It's a beautiful golf course. Absolutely, I can't wait to play it. And I certainly recommend absolute approval of what's in front of us tonight. What I did want to talk about, a little bit of the walking path, because there's been a lot of discussion about it, opposition based on safety. We thank the support for DRC to say, hey, look, and for Marshall, let's have a conversation about it this year. That's really all we're looking for. Sit down, let's talk about it as all possible. We listened, and we do think there is a safe plan based on the plans. Haven't been out in the field to really kind of see what it's like in the field, but based on the plans, it's a modest proposal. It's not a long path, and it's not based on crossing any fairways or greens. It's a modest path that can lead to the water. And the reason that is possible is because of the horseshoe effect. At the one end of it, you can enter the horseshoe at hole 7 at the end of it, and the hole 7 is only 127 yards, and you can be well away from that green so that very likely no one's ever going to come close to hitting you. It's a small hole. And then you're in the horseshoe, and then you can get around in the horseshoe without getting near any fairways as you lead yourself to the water. Not a long path, very modest though. We're not talking about, big path through the whole course or anything like that. Just a modest proposal, and we hope that we have the opportunity to sit down with the developer and just talk about it. Let's see if there's anything possible here. The second idea I talked about last week was access to the site from the South Broadway neighborhood, I'll call it. If you live on South Broadway in that neighborhood behind, if you want to get to the site, you basically, by walking or bike, you either have to take your life into the hands by walking along Veterans Parkway, or go down to 4th Street, which is half a mile from Veterans Parkway, or cut through Kettle Point, go down the bike path, and then come back up. So there's really no access, and I think it would be positive for everybody, including the development, to see if you can create some kind of walkway along Veterans Parkway that leads from the development to the pond to South Broadway, so that if someone wanted to get there by walking or biking, it would be a safe path. I know that'll take RIDOT, probably DEM, probably the Scenic Roadways Commissions, the city, Marshall, take everybody to kind of say, hey, look, this might make sense. So I'm just putting that out there for consideration to bring more connectivity to that neighborhood. We talk a lot about the connectivity to the other neighborhoods, but not that neighborhood. That's it.
Yeah, so have you shared the proposed walkways with the developer yet, or?
No,
Okay.
what we have is what we just talked about tonight.
Okay.
I think I mentioned it kind of briefly last week, but we haven't really done any detail. But we look, if we can, hey, we look forward to that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Just introduce yourself.
My name is Jim Hibbert, lifelong resident of East Providence. After
this year's golf, you start with this next phase, will you still be able to get into the golf course the same way?
Yeah, I believe the entrance is still being proposed as,
Yeah.
as the existing
I
entrance.
mean, our intent is to try to phase this where we can utilize this as long as we can. That phase two is fairly expansive. I would envision if we get the approval to do the work in the new curb cut that moves south, right, that would be put into place, and at such time that we can transition over, we will. I can't speak to it right now because our construction scheduling's not developed and we have a long way to go. Our intent would be that stay in place as long as it can and operate continuously until we move into the permanent structure.
How's it fate it might be going to phase A1?
Oh, okay, now,
Phase or something?
No access off of Fourth Street ever, other than emergency
right,
vehicles.
I think it's Berkeley, that is not, Berkeley Street, I think it's, yeah, it's way down the end, so. yeah.
So, but the intent is always that Fourth Street, there'll be a emergency vehicle access only off of Fourth Street without any through traffic.
Any other questions? Any other comments by the commission members before we
One
deliberate?
thing I'd like, I'm sorry.
Get Dave.
One thing to bring up, I was thinking about the golf walkways that you'd like to have in there. It's a nice idea, generally, just on paper. I don't play golf a lot. I played in charity tournaments, so I'm not an average golfer. But I did look up what is the speed of a golf ball by an average golfer. And it turns out it's 130 miles an hour. And that's with a ball that's much harder than a baseball. It's like a rock. And I like to put it down the fairway when I can get it off the tee. But very often I'll slice it, at a 75-degree angle off into the next hole. So I don't think there's any place on a golf course that's safe, period. When a foursome comes up to a tee, if there's a foursome already playing somewhere on the same hole, they don't do anything until the other foursome is off the green, unless it's like a 5-par. But otherwise, safety is number one issue on a golf course because it can be dangerous. Liability is something you take into account because you don't want to get sued, but before liability, you think about safety. And personally, I don't think a golf course is any place for adults or teenagers to be casually walking around anywhere nearby that I could hit them with a 130-mile-an-hour golf ball. And I could do that if I just didn't try that hard. That's the first thing I think of. It's dangerous. Secondly, any other sport that we go and observe, a baseball game, you don't have a walking path on a baseball field when a game is going on, or a football game, or a hockey game. So this is something you take into account for basic safety. I think this is something that should be brought up whenever the discussion occurs about the danger of walking anywhere near a golf course when someone doesn't yell for, or you're not anywhere near where you should be.
Thanks, Dave. Mike?
In your presentation in the first plan, you showed a temporary comfort station at the parking lot. Do you have plans for another comfort station anywhere else on the golf course? And then eventually, over time, are those going to become permanent, or are they always going to be temporary, whether it be one or several?
So at that location, that is the only one proposed for this use. And there would be 3 stalls within that apparatus that get serviced daily. We don't have any plan to make that a permanent facility until phase 2 starts. We don't have the sewer and the potable water at that particular location. That's why the beverages and food would be prepackaged, canned soft drinks and that sort of accessories.
And nothing on the golf course?
Not on the 9 holes. I don't know if my golf expert could speak to that, if that's typical for a 9-hole golf course. I know I go public golfing and some do and some don't.
But the ones that we're gonna have in the historic area is nice. Around the golf course for an hour and a half, 45 minutes, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Get back in the first tee again.
Okay. We should not serve there.
I don't know.
No, I don't think there's any plans, there won't be any alcoholic beverages, yeah, so,
That they're selling.
right, so, right. Anybody else?
Will there be new fencing, or are you gonna utilize the fencing that's there currently?
Around the property or around the premises?
On the parkway?
On the parkway, well, for now, that fence is gonna remain. Our final complexion of our development calls for all that fencing to be removed around. There may be a small section remaining on Fourth Street as it, goes along the golf course. But eventually, all that fencing is called to be gone. But for now, we're gonna keep it up to secure the property at night. We're gonna have the public on there. We have a lot of equipment, golf carts, those sort of things.
Yeah, I did notice on Lion Avenue, there's a section that I think is kind of giving way, so you might want to look at that, so.
Yeah, I think someone didn't stop at the end of Mercer. The fence.
Right, so,
So we have someone coordinating that repair.
excellent, so,
One of our concerns is that, and that perimeter fence will be secured.
yeah,
We put a lot of money into this asset. We do find people on the property time to time. As we've staffed up with the grounds crew, they've come to us and said there are people out here. So we'll probably be posting signs as it gets a little bit closer that the golf course is for golfers.
Right.
And please respect that.
okay, so, I guess the next order of business, if there's no other discussion, is for the Waterfront Commission to take a vote to adopt the Design Review Commission's advisory opinion. Sure, okay, I guess we have a prepared motion, so I'll read it, so.
The first one.
Motion to approve phase one of the proposed development, finding that it satisfies all requirements set forth in Article 9 of the zoning ordinance, and based upon the recommendation and findings of the Design Review and Planning Board, this approval is limited to phase one only, as set forth in the addendum to the application detailing the phasing schedule for the development as a whole. Additionally, the commission approves the proposed phasing schedule for the development as a whole. Direct legal counsel prepare a written decision with the option of whether or not to adopt the DRC's recommendation that the applicant return to the commission for discussion regarding walking paths. So that's the entire motion with the option of including the recommendation for discussion on the walking paths.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And just for the record, that includes to adopt the DRC's recommendation for the discussion on walking paths, right? Consensus is that's the case? Okay, thank you, at the board. Record notify that that's the consensus, so. Okay, thank you, that's the motion for tonight. We will proceed to item C. I do have a conflict myself on June 20th. So just wanted to bring a vote to the commission to reschedule the June 20th meeting to June 27th. You have a motion to make that schedule change?
Make a motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Yeah, and obviously the agenda will be posted well in advance, 48 hours, but as we have to change our regularly scheduled meeting, which is on the 20th on our annual calendar for the 27th. So I think it's best that we just get the word out in advance. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Great, motion passes.
Have we scheduled DRC meeting?
We didn't, but let's do that offline.
Okay.
We haven't done that yet.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure.
So next item is the staff report, right?
Right, it's pretty brief because it's really a recap of everything that's happened tonight. There was a meeting of the DRC Metacomet Development Review on 5/9 at 6 o'clock at City Council. It was it's a continuation of several anticipated DRC meetings which are going to be rescheduled. Peer reviews have been received except for one that we haven't seen that somebody asked about it, so that's coming now. Second is Rhode Island Ready permitting process was spoken about by Bobby Sykes, and it was voted that we would convene. Amy and I will meet with him, create a memorandum of understanding that would be eventually presented to the full committee when they have a prospect or a plan that shows a potential prospect. Aspen aerogels, which I mentioned at the last meeting, they wanted a small temporary office space. They sent us the plans, city staff, everybody reviewed it, there's no concerns, it was administratively approved, and they have now sent in their check fee, their fee check, and the MyLots to be recorded. And the Metacom development has been bifurcated to allow going forward with the golf course, and we've all heard in the last 30 minutes what that's about, and it's been voted to be approved. And that's my report for now.
Any other questions for Ray? I guess the only other question is, any further discussion on 105 Concord Avenue at all? or-
No,
Okay.
there is not, no.
Okay, that's the former Fram building site, if you remember that, so.
Yeah. It's bouncing around,
Right.
it's because of the bouncy thing that's in here.
That's kind of low.
Right.
It's a tough
So,
site to develop.
If that's the case, I have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you.
I thought the Bruins are on tonight, or on tomorrow.
All right, yeah, it's even better.